All right, here's the video for everybody who missed the class. Here are the answers from the previous night's homework. At any point during this video you need to, please pause it so you can do the work yourself and not just copy. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to solve by graphing. X to the third plus 3x squared equals x plus 3. When I ask you to solve by graphing, what we're going to do is we're going to set it equal to 0. Let me find a picture real quick. We're going to set it equal to 0 and plug it into Desmos. So I'm going to say x to the third plus 3x squared minus x minus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to subtract an x and subtract a 3. I'm going to graph that in Desmos, and I'm just going to pull it up. It's going to look like this. And my solutions are going to be where it crosses the x-axis. Where it crosses the x-axis. And if I look at this, it's going to cross at -3, -1, and 1. So again, looking at this, it crosses the x-axis at -3, -1, and 1. Those are my three solutions. You have to solve for 0 and plug it into Desmos. We've done it before. All right, now, our sum and difference of cubes. We need to memorize these. Straight up memorize them. You don't have to memorize much in here, but you need to memorize these. A to the third plus b to the third is a sum of cubes. Two perfect cubes added together. And that's going to factor into a plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. A plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. Just got to memorize it. The other one is going to be a difference of cubes. Two perfect cubes, a times a times a, b times b times b, separated by a minus sign. And the only change in the formula is where that negative sign is. So it's a minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. All right, got to know them. All right, so I'm going to look at this. I'm going to pick an a value and a b value. I need to decide for my x to the third. What times itself 3 times will give me an x to the third. And I'm going to say it's x because x times x times x is x to the third. Now 8. What times itself will give me 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So that's going to be my b value. So my x is my a value. 2 is going to be my b value. Because 2 cubed is 8, x cubed is x to the third, separated by a minus sign. So I'm going to go into this formula here. Everywhere I see an a, I'm going to put x. Everywhere I see a b, I'm going to put 2, and I'm going to clean it up. A minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. So I'm going to go a minus b, x minus 2, square the x, I get x squared, multiply a times b, I get 2x, and then square the 2, and I get 4. And that's factored. So we're going to pick our a and our b value, we're going to substitute it into the correct formula, and do all the little math that we can. X to the third minus 8 factors into x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4. This is the answer. This back piece here will never, ever, 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 ever factor. All right, easy as that. Doesn't factor any further, so we're done. So let's look at this next one. 125 a to the third plus 64. I'm betting it's going to be this top one because there's a plus sign between them. So piece by piece, what number times itself is 125, and that's going to be 5. Let me change this to an x to make it a little bit cleaner. What term times itself is an x to the third, and I'm going to say x because 5x times 5x times 5x is 125x to the third. Now 64, what number cubed, what number times itself is 64? With a little thought, I hope we get 4. Because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Plus sign between it. So I'm going to go to the top formula. A plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. At any point, pause this so you can try it on your own. A plus b is 5x plus 4. A squared means I'm going to square the 5x. So I'm going to multiply 5x times 5x and get a 25x squared. A times b is going to be 5x times 4 is minus 20x. And a 4 squared is a plus 16. So once you pick your A and your B and pick the right formula, substitute it in and do all the math you can. When you square 5x, it's going to be 25x squared, not 5x squared. It's 25x squared. All right, so that's the formula. So this right here is the lesson for now. All right, that's the beginning of this lesson. All right, knowing the formula and going from there. All right, now we're going to solve equations. X to the third minus 8 equals 0. X to the third minus 8 equals 0. Don't do this. Don't copy this part. A lot of people's thought is to add an 8 and cube root and get x to equal 2. That's partially right, but it's not completely right. When I have a cubic equation, I'm trying to find 3 answers. We don't always get them, but that's what we're looking for. And if I just straight solve this, I only get 1, not the 3 that I need. So we're not going to do it this way. I'm going to erase this. We're going to start over. All right, this is a difference of cubes. Two perfect cubes separated by a minus sign. So I'm going to say my A value is x. My b value is 2. And wait a minute. Yep, that's exactly the same one we did already once. So I'm going to plug it in. X minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4 equals 0. So I'm going to have to factor this. We just can't add an 8 and cube root it. We have to factor. All right, now looking at this, we're done with the new material. The factoring was the new part. Now, I'm going to solve these. There's one of my answers. That's the easy one. This second one, and my third answer, because I'm going to get 2 answers out of this, we need to solve this part. I already said once it doesn't factor, so our 2 options are completing the square and the quadratic formula. I'm going to ask you to complete the square to get some practice. So I'm going to say x squared plus 2x. I'm going to move the 4 to the other side. Underneath it, I put my parentheses squared to solve. Now we go through our process. I take half of my middle and say x plus 1. I'm going to square that 1, put it on both sides, and get a minus 3. Half my middle squared to both sides. Square root the left, plus or minus square root the right, because I always do a plus or minus when I cancel my square. The square root of negative 3, take that I out as I squared to 3. And my last step is I'm going to subtract a 1. There's 2 of my answers, and there's the third. So those are my 3 solutions. So the new part is going from here to here. And that's the only thing we should have to really go over. All the other stuff has been on a test, been on a quiz, and we should understand what's going on. If not, we need to figure it out. All right, so we'll do this one. 27x to the third plus 1. 27x to the third plus 1. This is another cube. This time it's a sum of cubes. A plus b. A squared minus ab plus b squared. So I need to pick an a value, a b value, and I've already decided the formula because of the plus sign. So I need to know what term times itself is a 27x to the third. So I'm going to think 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. X times x times x is x to the third. And in the back, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So 27x to the third is 3x to 3x, 3x. 1 is 1, 1, 1. So I'm going to plug these in. 3x squared is a 9x squared because I'm going to square 3x. 3x times 3x. Minus the 2 multiplied together plus 1 squared, which is 1. This first one's always going to be the easy one. I get negative 1/3. Like I said, pause it when you need to. Now this back one, 9x squared minus 3x plus 1, because you have a coefficient in the middle term's odd, I wouldn't complete the square, so go through the quadratic formula and find me the solution for these. Find me 2 more answers based on this. All right, so pause it when you need to. I need to break down square root of negative 27, doing the factor tree and taking out the I. And then lastly, I'm going to simplify. Taking a 3 out of all of those, and I get 1 plus or minus I squared to 3 over 6. This here is not the new part. This is the only new part we have today. One answer, 2 answers, giving me my total of 3 that I was trying to find. All right, that's the first part. Now let's go do some division for the next part. All right. Elementary school division. We're going to call it our long division. We're going to have 2 methods of division, long and synthetic. All right, so if we understand the elementary school way, we're going to get the long division. All right, so what we're going to do, my thought process needs to be, how many times does 24 divide into 29? 24 divides into 29 1 time. So I'm going to put a 1 on top. Then I'm going to multiply 1 times 24. Get 24. After I do that, I need to subtract. Subtracting 24 minus, or 29 minus 24, I get a 5, and I bring down the 8. Now I'm going to start over. How many times does 24 go into 58? We're going to say twice. 2 times 24 is 48. I'm going to subtract, get 10, bring down the 7. How many times does 24 go into 107? We're going to say 4 times. And some of you guys may have to think a little bit more. As long as we can get there, it doesn't matter. So 4 times 24 is 96. I subtract, and I get an 11 at the bottom. This is my remainder. All right, but we are done writing R's. Our answers are not going to have R's in them. What we're going to say is we're going to say my solution is 124 and 11 over what you divided by 24. So we're going to take our remainder and put it over what we divided by. And 2,987 divided by 24 is 124 and 11 24ths. All right, that's the elementary school way with numbers. What we're going to do now is add variables. Don't worry about what's on the side over here yet. This will be covered when you do the second video. All right, so same concept, just a little different. We're going to look at these two pieces. I'm going to look at the x and the x squared. My thought process is x times what gives me an x squared, or x squared divided by x is what? Okay, so x times what is x squared is x. And x squared divided by x is also x. So I'm going to put an x up here on top. All right. When I do this multiplication, that first term has to cancel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply x times both the pieces on the outside, that x minus 4. And I get x squared minus 4x. This next step is where people make mistakes. All right. What we want to do next is we want to subtract. So x squared minus x squared is 0. It's gone. Don't worry about it. A negative 2x minus a negative 4x. I'm going to make that a plus sign because it's two minuses. Negative 2x plus 4x is 2x. A lot of you guys are going to think 6x to start. But you have to change your sign. So what we're going to do to make this a little bit better, when we subtract this line, instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. Adding the opposite is the same concept as subtracting. And we're going to say subtract, but go through and change your signs, and it's going to help us. Bring down your minus 8. X times what is a 2x? Or 2x divided by x is I'm going to say a positive 2. So I'm going to put a plus 2 up top. I'm going to distribute. And subtract. I don't want to subtract, so I'm going to add the opposite. Do my math. 2x plus a negative 2x is gone. Negative 8 plus 8 is gone. I get a remainder of 0, so my answer is x plus 2 because I don't have a remainder. So our thoughts. X times what is x squared? And we put an x on top. We distribute. And then subtract, but we're going to add the opposite, and I get 2x. And I keep doing it over and over again until I get all the way to the bottom. All right, so same idea. Instead of subtracting, add the opposite. It makes a big difference so we don't make careless mistakes. All right, over here on the right, don't worry about how it relates, but it will. Completely different. You can ignore number 2. If I give you f of x is x squared minus 2x minus 8, and I ask you to find me f of 4. Don't worry about how it relates yet. If I give you this and I want f of 4, I'm going to go in and put a 4 into all my x's and get 0. And that's all we need to know for now. You'll see how it relates when you get to the next video. All right. X minus 3 divided into x squared plus 3x minus 12. X minus 3 divided into x squared plus 3x minus 12. All right, so if you think you got it, pause the video and do the math. All right, but if not, I'll go through it. I'm going to look at these two again. What times x gives me my x squared, and I'm going to say x. I'm going to distribute. And then subtract. I don't want to subtract because it confuses me. So I'm going to add the opposite. Cancels. I get a 6x. bring down my minus 12. We'll start over. What times x is 6x? And I'm going to say, oh, that's a plus 6. Distribute 6x minus 18. And then I'm going to subtract. Instead of subtracting, I'm going to add the opposite, which gives me a remainder of 6. I'm going to write my answer as x plus 6 plus my remainder over what I divided by. And that's going to be our solution. All right, the next video will have one more before it goes into the rest of it. All right, now coming over to the side, f of x is x squared plus 3x minus 12. I want f of 3. So we're going to plug 3 into that function and see what we get as an answer. And we get an answer of 6. Don't worry about why, don't worry about how. It'll come into play here in a little bit. All right, that's the rest of the lesson. For this, no, not the rest, that's the first half of the lesson. There's still a second half that's in the video. There's a second video in here. All right, if you have questions, talk to me, but please have this work done when you show up to class. And we will have a quiz next class on the 2 sections we learned before today. All right, have a great one.